A diagnosis of any type of blood cancer is devastating, but our guest on this episode achieved survivorship. This is the Cancer Interviews podcast, and I'm your host, Bruce Morton. Anna Tower-Kovesdi of Longmont, Colorado, overcame a diagnosis of leukemia, and now she wants to help others. It's time to hear her story. And Anna, welcome to Cancer Interviews.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Bruce, for having me.
And we look forward to hearing your story. Anna, first thing we want to do is the same thing we do with all of our guests at the beginning, and that is to learn a little bit about their lives exclusive of cancer. So if you would, tell us a bit about where you're from, what you do for work, and when time allows for fun, what you do for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Hungary. I moved to the US in 2021, so 2.5 years ago, and I moved here to marry my husband. And I work in public relations, and I really like outdoorsy doors, being active, and everything in the nature, from hiking to mountain biking, swimming, kayaking, everything.
Excellent. Now, for all of us who are cancer survivors, there was that point in time in which we noticed something different, something abnormal about our health, and unfortunately, that led to a diagnosis of cancer. For you, when did you notice something wrong?
Yeah, so for me, the diagnosis was really out of the blue. Like I said, I really like, being active, and I try to live a healthy life. And I always thought that, like a serious diagnosis cannot happen to me. So back in 2021, I was diagnosed in December, a few days before Christmas. And actually, I only got symptoms like 1 week before. Or I would say I got symptoms which I started to pay attention to 2 months before that. So in October 2021, I had COVID, and it wasn't anything serious. I had a little cold. I was tired, and after that, I think I felt a little bit fatigue from that on. But I considered this, maybe long COVID or nothing special. And 1 week before my diagnosis, I was on a long weekend in Chicago with my husband, where we, had an early flight. We had delays. We walked a lot, did sightseeing. We did all the fun things. And I was very tired. And on the second day, I felt very feverish when visiting a museum. And I got my period, which was very heavy for a few hours. And I think that was the first sign, which was like, I felt something is off. Like, I never had this before. It's just very weird. And then we got home. The fatigue keep continue, but in a way that I walked up to the bedroom and I was out of breath. I washed my hair. And before dressing up, I had to sit down. I was so tired. And I still didn't think about anything serious. And then one day before my diagnosis, I realized mysterious bruises all over my leg. And before that, I was in a massage, and I thought maybe it was a little harder, so it felt like maybe it's okay. But also I felt in my gut that something is off. Looking back, these are textbook symptoms, so I could think about, or I could be aware, but I wasn't at the time. And on a Sunday morning, December 19th, 2021, I went to the urgent care just to make sure that everything is fine. And it wasn't. And it wasn't. They did lots of blood works. I spent 3 hours on the urgent care, which was very weird to me. They didn't really say anything. They said that I might be anemic, I might need a blood transfusion, which was, at the time, the craziest thing I could ever think of. So after 3 hours, I was sent home, and they told me that that night or the next day, they will reach out with the results. And that night, 9 p.m., they called me from the local ER that I have to be there in an hour with a packed bag.
And what happened when you returned?
So I went to the ER. They led me to a room, put me on an EKG and some other things I don't remember. Probably they drew another blood work. And I think after 5 minutes there, the doctor told me that it's 80% that it's leukemia. And I'm a positive person. So I was like, okay, but what's the other 20? I'm like, I don't care about the 80, what's the other 20? And she just nodded her head that it's leukemia.
We all, when we get word that we have cancer, because each cancer is different and our persona is different, how we react to that news can be different. Obviously, the news is horrific news, but when you take into account with what you were diagnosed and your positive nature as a person, put all that together, what was your reaction?
I think I told my husband that I don't want to die. I honestly don't remember everything. I think I was in a shock, obviously at that time. But I remember I told my husband that I don't want to die.
By the way, we're confident you'll be able to learn some tips and tools to help you through your personal cancer journey. But first, we'd like to invite you to please give us a like, leave a comment or a review below, and share this story with your friends. Kindly click on the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon. That way you'll be notified the next time we post an interview. And if you or a loved one are facing a cancer diagnosis, please click on the link in the description and show notes below to check out our free guide, The Top 10 Things I Wish I Knew When I First Got Cancer. And for you, Anna, you had just learned that you had cancer. And as you said, you did not want to die, but any of us, when we get diagnosed with cancer, there's this feeling that it is bigger than we are. And that said, did you have a certain feeling of helplessness?
Obviously, yes. And, like I didn't really know anyone who had cancer before. I didn't know, honestly, I would say nothing like about cancer. Cancer was me kind of like, okay, that's a death sentence, right? This is how I knew it. I saw some movies when everyone was like, vomiting 24/7 and they are like pale and weak and cannot even stand. So in my head, that was cancer. But early on, that night I was airlifted and I met my doctor the other day or the next day, the following day. And early on with my husband, I think in the first few days, we said that we will do it. No matter what it takes, it's not a death sentence. It's a pause in our life, but I will get cured and I will be fine. So, of course, you feel helplessness. There's no way not to feel that, but I think there's a way to say that no matter what it takes, I'm gonna do it because I want to live and I have plans for the future. And that's what I try to keep in mind and focus on that.
Anna, different types of cancers have different treatment options. I'm a survivor of prostate cancer. Prostate cancer has numerous treatment options, and there are other cancers that have only one option. It's pretty cut and dried. How was it for you? Did you have treatment options? Was there more than one way you could have gone by way of treatment?
No, I was offered only one. So acute lymphoblastic leukemia happens very fast and it can be like very serious. I had 98% of cancerous cells at the time of my diagnosis. So I was offered actually a pediatric treatment, which was supposed to hold for last for 3 years. It's just a chemo only route, and very soon at the beginning we could see that the chemo works or not. So I didn't know at the time that I will need a transplant, a bone marrow transplant or not. But the main goal was just the 3 years chemo without the transplant. And actually, thank God my body reacted to the chemo really soon and well. So I didn't need the bone marrow transplant. So I had 1 year chemo, and then I got the opportunity to choose between the chemotherapy or the immunotherapy. And I chose the latter one, which is, they have less experience with that, but it's a shorter treatment with less side effects and hopefully less damage on your organs. But it was a continuous infusion for 6 months. So I had to live with permanently accessed with a needle my chessboard and yeah, spend every day with an infusion bag. So yeah, mine was chemotherapy and immunotherapy.
Anna, it sounds like you are glad you chose to go the route of immunotherapy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was almost a year shorter than we planned, which was obviously for me, like a huge success, because when I was told that it will be a 3-year treatment, I was shocked. I thought when I got diagnosed that, okay, half a year and I can forget about it. So decreasing the length with a year, that seems amazing, and also having less side effects, protecting my organs as much as I can. These are huge things. These are huge opportunities.
Now, there are people who are watching or listening who have been diagnosed with leukemia, or they know that there's the possibility they could be diagnosed, and I'm sure they have heard numerous times about the high probability of their having to undergo chemotherapy. In terms of your chemotherapy experience, what was the toughest part?
For me, the toughest part was, I thought it was being in a hospital for 37 days at the beginning, but actually the hardest part is not connected to the chemo, is getting an infection. So from the chemotherapy, I didn't have any immune system, right? So I get an infection, which led to dehydration, 10 days of hospital stay, lots of weight loss, and I think that was the hardest part. But if it's about the chemo, I would say that getting weak and tired and being nauseous all the time. I was lucky I didn't like vomit as much as I thought it will happen, or as much as I see it in the movies. But I was nauseous for weeks, if not months, and that was really hard.
Well, during that time, it would be instrumental in your road to survivorship if you get support. If you would describe the support you got from your husband.
Yeah, he was the best caregiver I could ever imagine. I feel really lucky, and I felt so supportive, and I always say that I think I couldn't be able to do it without him. Like all the love, the support in every way, and leaving me alone when I needed to be alone. I got everything, and I think these are important parts. And no matter if it was helping me shower or get to the car and escort me to appointments or making me breakfast, he was there all the time, seriously 24/7, and yeah, I cannot be grateful enough, and lucky how amazing support I got.
Now, how about your family in Hungary? If they're in Hungary and you are in Colorado, I suspect there are ways they can support you from a distance, but was it to some degree frustrating that they couldn't be here, frustrating for them and for you?
It was my decision that they didn't travel immediately. My sister actually was Florida in the time, and my parents were in Hungary. And I felt like that, especially if my mom would visit me, I wouldn't be as strong, because if my mom would have been here, I would be her little baby, right? And I felt like I need to be strong. I wanted to be strong for myself, for my husband, and wanted to be still alive and not like, the mom's little kid. I also didn't really wanted them to see me in my worst. I didn't want my husband to see me in my worst, but I feel like my mom especially would have a harder time. And also, she couldn't drive in the US. We had to figure out where she can stay. If she would be in the hospital with me, I probably could have translated some things to Hungarian from English. So I just felt that I don't want to think about her being okay, I wanted really to focus on myself and not thinking about make sure that she's okay, she have everything she needs, she's fine. Also, I could have only one visitor at a time, and I felt like I need my husband to be with me. So it was my decision. 10 months after my diagnosis, my mom and my sister could come and visit me. That was amazing, and I already was in a better place when I'm like, yeah, we can meet, and we can even go out to a walk and have a coffee.
Now, you talk about getting into a better place emotionally, but what about physically? If you would, tell us about the juncture in which you felt like things were changing for the better, that you were moving closer to recovery, moving closer to survivorship.
Yeah, so 7 months after the diagnosis, I got the infection I mentioned, which really put me in the worst physical state during the whole treatment. And 1 month after that, I got a secondary cancer diagnosis, and it looked like that I need a transplant. I was admitted to the hospital to get a 1 month chemotherapy to prepare for the transplant. They told me that the cancerous cells, like noticing that they are targeted by chemotherapy, they could kind of like change themselves into a different cancer. So overall, I was admitted to the hospital, and we repeated the bone marrow biopsy, and the results looked better. So I could leave the hospital, and we were waiting for more detailed results. And after a month or so, I got the green light that the cancer didn't transmit it to something else. I don't have a secondary cancer, and we can go back to the original treatment. So it was a crazy roller coaster emotionally, but mentally, by the time we are talking about 2022 September now, end of September, that was 2-3 months after my infection, and we stopped with the treatment because of this secondary cancer diagnosis. So I could, get a little stronger physically as well. So by the time my mom and sister visited, I felt strong enough to meet them and go out for a half an hour walk.
And how exciting was that?
It was amazing. I haven't seen them like a year or so before that. It was amazing. It was amazing, and really, I felt like another huge emotional support. Obviously we were in FaceTime almost every day with them through the whole diagnosis or the whole treatment, but meeting in person with your family you never seen for a while, it's amazing.
Anna, if you could say that your health was 100% pre-diagnosis, what is it today compared to 100%? And if there's anything you can't do or do as well, what would that be?
Yeah, so it's really hard to say because I don't know how I felt before diagnosis, right? So it's been 2.5 years almost. Actually 2. And so I don't remember how I felt. I would say 80-85%. I'm still fatigued, and my immune system is still not great. It's still like some numbers are lower than they should. So I would say 80-85. I already did a few shorter hikes. I walk every day 4 or 5 miles. I try to go to the gym a few times a week. I try to stay active. What I cannot do, I think there is nothing. I think I got the clear for everything last October. My chest port was removed. I'm able to go to a pool, which I haven't been since then. I can travel even internationally. So I think there's nothing right now which is not allowed.
That's outstanding news. Now, many people, after achieving survivorship, they want to help others. How do you want to help others, people who have been diagnosed with leukemia or other cancers?
Yeah, so from the get-go, I shared my story on social media, and wherever I could, honestly, which is, I think, important because I really didn't hide the worst part of it. I wanted to share my story to show people, to make awareness, because I feel like cancer is still like such a scary topic, and we don't know enough. And I wanted to give hope to other cancer patients, and that's my main goal, to give hope to others, and you know, that there is the end, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Our guest is Anna Tower-Kovesdi of Longmont, Colorado. And Anna, we're going to conclude now, and we always try to conclude the same way with the following question. Let's say you encountered somebody one-on-one, somebody who's just been diagnosed with leukemia. They might have a lot of questions, you might have a lot of answers, but if there's one point that you wanted to make sure that you got across to this person, something that they would take with them once your conversation was done, what would that be?
Oh, that's a hard question. I think I would tell them that they should try to stay positive and never give up, and keep their humor, because that can help going through all of it.
And that bit of information can pack quite a wallop, especially as one goes through a cancer journey, because it's so important to stay positive. Anna, thanks so much for sharing your story. It's a positive story, one that started out poorly, as all of our cancer diagnoses do, but you were strong, you got support, and you got through it. And this should be a story of inspiration for others. Anna, thanks so much for being with us on Cancer Interviews.
Thank you so much again.
And that will wrap up this episode of the Cancer Interviews podcast. And we'll remind you, as we always do when we bring this to a conclusion, that if you or a loved one are on a cancer journey, you are not alone. There are people out there just like Anna who have words of wisdom that can provide information and/or inspiration to you as you go through your cancer journey. So until next time, we'll see you on down the road.